This week was supposed to be a pretty big week for crypto as the US Senate unveiled its crypto market structure draft bill, otherwise known as the Clarity Act. Voting was supposed to happen this Thursday, but it has been delayed. Now, all of this is happening while Bitcoin is currently hovering just around $92,000, struggling at resistance, but maintaining $90,000 as support. In today's video, we'll be talking about this, going over the most recent Bitcoin price action, and also discussing the inflation reading, which is about to come out. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So you can see that just a few hours ago, the US Senate did unveil its crypto market structure draft bill, and what this actually means, great summary in the comment section here. Narratives directly benefiting from this bill are, of course, Bitcoin, commodity-like assets, Ethereum and major layer ones, clearer legal framework, reducing the risk of being classified as securities. This was always a problem in crypto. DeFi, so blue chip non-custodial. Protocols that are non-custodial and not KYC heavy stand to benefit. Stablecoins, of course, this has been a huge narrative. Blocking CBDCs indirectly opens the door for private stablecoins, and then RWAs. Tokenized bonds, funds, and real-world assets become easier to deploy in the US, and the ones that aren't necessarily benefiting from this are privacy coins because of the compliance conflicts, the highly centralized tokens, and the narratives directly opposing regulation. So they were supposed to vote on this on Thursday, and an article just came out saying that essentially this has been pushed. Efforts to reform US cryptocurrency regulation have hit another delay as Senate senators push back to crucial markup of the Clarity Act. The vote has been moved to the last week of January to secure bipartisan support. Now, let's take a look at the Bitcoin price action. If you've been watching the channel, you know that I've been in a Bitcoin short from around $93,500 as my average entry. Now I'm holding on to this position, and Bitcoin is struggling to get those 4-hour closes above the $92,000 level. But if you watched my previous video, I discussed the fact that if we maintain 90K, we can get a bigger push up, which is what we're seeing right now. Really zooming out on the Bitcoin chart, we have to discuss the fact that this is indeed a wedge and it is building up. Now, most of the time when we are in a downtrend, these types of wedges tend to break down. I'm just telling you what the probabilities are. However, we cannot ignore the fact that we are looking like we want to coil up here, potentially going ahead and grabbing some more upside liquidity beforehand. At this point in time, we are right at that VWAP level, which is this light blue line. I've highlighted it several times on the channel before. This can act as resistance, and you can see that we're getting wicks above it, but more recently, we're not necessarily closing above there on a 4-hour candle basis. This you want to pay attention to because if we can, it could stem another move like we saw previously all the way up to the top of this existing range. But again, if you're not a trader, pay attention to this. We are still in the exact same range. Now, something has to give. We're either going to break to the upside or to the downside. Either way, I am perfectly prepared because I entered that Bitcoin short and I'm still holding on to my Bitcoin long, which you can see there's a portion of my position here that I'm happy to let sit even if it gets stopped out at break even because I already secured some profits on this trade. By the way, if you want to know exactly how I am personally trading this market, remember that you do have the first link in my description down below. If you DM me the keyword premium on Telegram, I'd be happy to onboard you into that group. This is the first link. Outside of this, I have to make you aware of one of the most insane bonuses that I have seen in the crypto industry since 2017, and that is a 30% unlimited bonus for Futures Pro users on BTCC. 30% unlimited. You're used to those promotions where, for example, if you deposit $10,000, you can get $3,000 back. That's always a great promotion, of course, but there is a cap. With this promotion, there is literally no cap. So in theory, if you are to deposit $1 million on BTCC after using the second link in my description down below, you can get up to $300,000 for free for trading. Now, of course, there are some pretty strict terms and conditions, so I would highly recommend that you read up on them, which is, again, the second link in my description down below, but I just thought I'd make you aware of this. This is absolutely insane, and I have not seen many exchanges running these kinds of promotion. It wouldn't surprise me if they close out the promotion sooner rather than later. So if that sounds interesting, it's the second link in my description down below, 30% unlimited deposit bonus. Now, taking a look at Bitcoin. Look, I want to see us break above here if we are to go ahead and target the range highs once more. Break above $92,000, get sustained 4-hour candle closes there, and we're talking about a different ballgame for Bitcoin, potentially targeting the highs. This is all short-term stuff. Now, we need to also understand that today inflation data is coming out. I don't think that it will necessarily impact the price unless we get something way higher or way lower than expected, but you know what the probabilities are telling us, and that is that we have a 95% chance that we will not be getting rate cuts in January. Let's see if this reading changes anything, but I'm not necessarily banking on it. In terms of technicals, the only thing you really want to pay attention to is if we can get sustained closes above $92,000 to then target the range highs. Now, if you don't want to trade this range, which I completely understand, you'd like to see us at the bare minimum break above $94,000 and hold there as support. It couldn't be any more clear because you can see that Bitcoin is coiling up, and every single time that you tap into resistance, it tends to get weaker. But we cannot ignore the fact that we've tapped into the downside several times as well. And while Bitcoin is quite a ways away from, say, the 84K zone, I would not rule out a shakeout to lower levels. Please remember that the trend is still very much down. It is a fight to get back up for Bitcoin to really get a sustained pump. Now, taking a look at the liquidity, which we tend to always do on this channel, on the 2-week time frame, you can see that there are more longs in this market compared to shorts. And this is also shown on this Bitcoin exchange liquidation map, where you can see that there's actually 2 times more cumulative long liquidation leverage in the market compared to cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market. If you've been watching me over the past few days, this hasn't really changed. In fact, more and more longs have started to pile in because every single time that Bitcoin looks like it wants to roll over, we manage to grab some upside liquidity. Right now, I'm happy with my positioning. I'm simply going to wait it out and see what the price action gives me. But if you want to know what my next big trade in this market will be, whether we break the range or we get acceptance back towards the bottom of this range, you do have the first link in my description down below. Remember, you sign up with any of the affiliate links down below and you get access to that free premium group. Just use those exchanges to trade the market as you normally would. And at this point in time, I would highly recommend BTCC with that massive unlimited 30% deposit bonus only available with the second link in my description down below. ETFs. Yesterday, we did get a little bit of buying. This is ultimately positive. This is what you want to see if Bitcoin is really going to make a move outside of this existing range. We saw 100 million worth of inflows. BlackRock were the ones selling, and then we have Fidelity, which were the ones mainly accumulating here. Now, I also want you to pay attention to the fact that the Coinbase premium is still red, but you can see that this really is a Coinbase dominant market. And what I mean by this is whenever we see that the Coinbase premium starts flipping green, we do get that pump, but if we start selling immediately, then naturally it follows the Bitcoin price almost perfectly. As Bitcoin was forming its base right around $90,000, you can see that the selling was relatively constant. And then as soon as we did get some more buying from Coinbase, well, ultimately we got the pump and then we came back down, some more selling. And right now it looks like we are trying to trend upwards here. If we really take a look at the 1-hour chart, what I want you to pay attention to for Bitcoin is that we are trying to form those higher lows. Now, I still think that there is a non-negligible chance that we can be moving lower from here, which is why I've maintained my Bitcoin short. Every single time that we try to get those 4-hour closes above $92,000, you can see that we just managed to get rejected. So price is essentially getting squeezed between $90,000 up to $92,000, and only time will tell where the liquidity will be grabbed. I still think that it's highly unlikely that we will be getting a big move to the upside without tagging some downside liquidity. You can see the biggest cluster is still below $87,000. And with the current structure that we're seeing, probabilities would actually favor a little bit of a move lower before higher. But if we are to get a dump below $90,000, it doesn't mean that we're just immediately going to go to the range lows. Perhaps we grab that liquidity and then we can go ahead and move higher. Ultimately, trading the crypto market is all about probabilities. And in case you were wondering why the crypto industry has such a bad reputation, well, former New York City Mayor Eric Adams launched a meme coin which hit almost a $600 million market cap, and it crashed 80% as he removed liquidity. And how much liquidity did he remove? Right around $3.2 million worth of liquidity. Guys, If we want crypto to really thrive, these things simply cannot happen. There cannot be easy ways for this to happen. Otherwise, the market will remain suppressed. This is absolutely horrible, especially in these kinds of times where Bitcoin already feels like it is relatively suppressed at this price point. So honestly, the only thing I could say is do better. This is literally a former mayor of New York City. Come on. And because of this kind of stuff, the uncertainty with Fed Chair Jerome Powell, etc., gold and silver naturally continue to climb higher because we are seeing risk-averse behavior here. If you're wondering why people are buying precious metals at all-time highs, the assault on the Fed is indeed a reminder. That's a deeply destabilizing event that's feeding safe haven demand. And at this point in time, unfortunately, Bitcoin is not seen as a safe haven asset. Now, I do believe that in our lifetime that will be the case. At this point in time, though, it is still a risk asset and will operate as such. And I'd like to wrap up this video with a great post on X. When everyone is expecting the same outcome, Bitcoin either pushes far beyond expectations or fails to move at all. This is no longer a level-based game. At this stage, you're in a psychological warfare against the most skilled manipulators in the market. Be prepared for violent wicks as expectations are either dramatically exceeded or abruptly disappointed. Couldn't agree with this more. I think we're going to see a lot of shakeouts before Bitcoin can actually make its next big move. So far, we are trying to build on this uptrend, but only time will tell if we can really get a confirmed move above $94,000. Now, where would I pivot my stance in this market, targeting higher levels? To be perfectly honest, if we can maintain above this level, call it $94,000, and we get, for example, some daily closes there, I almost think it'll be a free long to target all the way up to around $100,000. However, until we can actually confirm above this level, I would be cautious going aggressively long. You saw the liquidity. You know a lot of people are going long at this point in time. Yes, of course, there is still some short liquidity, but based on what I'm seeing here, the probabilities still favor a little bit of a sweep lower before we can actually break out of this existing range. And that sums up today's quick video. The inflation reading is likely to come out as I upload this video, so by the time you're watching it, it's probably already out. In typical crypto fashion, we have the New York City mayor launching rug pulls, and the Clarity Act voting has been delayed to the last week of January. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Don't forget about that massive BTCC bonus, 30% unlimited deposit bonus with the second link in my description down below. I have my bluffin' leveraging tutorial right here, and I'll see you in the next video.